Okay, now we have Rebuild Prosperity, save £55 million a day in membership fees. It's probably about right. No tax on the minimum wage. An alternative to that is to raise the minimum wage. That way the minimum wages can brag that they pay taxes too. Now we have enroll unemployed welfare claimants into community schemes or retraining workfare programs. Well, we've all heard that before for the past 30, 40, 50 years. It doesn't achieve anything. And the main problem with being unemployed is the cost of living is so high that even if you're motivated to actually build something yourself, build your own business while keeping a roof over your head, paying bills is just a complete nightmare. And for the first step to fixing unemployment is to reduce the cost of living. And the biggest component of that is the cost of houses, and the cost of houses is in an asset bubble which is inflated by the likes of the Chancellor, the Lord High Chancellor, who has I think it's 4 separate homes now, 2 are going to rent. Now you've got a political class, including the Lord High Chancellor, the Chief of Justice, if you like, who are running the housing portfolios, and they don't want to let the house prices collapse. And it really does, it needs to. And if we collapse the house prices, the cost of living will shrink, and that will mean it'll be much easier for the unemployed to become self-employed. Because the solution isn't to give these people jobs, but enable them to find contracts with other people, allow them to create their own opportunities. Of course, not all of them are capable of that, not all of them are willing, but even in Rome you had 50% unemployment and they were still invading countries and running their empire. And the big financial problem as far as the work shy isn't the work shy on the dole, but the work shy in government. The ones who take 6-figure salaries, even 5-figure salaries, for doing nothing, which one third of the government expense each year is welfare, and 2/3 isn't welfare. So if you cut government down, potentially you can cut 2/3 of taxpayers. What the taxpayer needs to pay. So cut taxes by 2/3 by cutting government, but cut the welfare recipients, and you can only cut 1/3 from that. And of course, then you've got this army of people who are likely to go thieving and rampaging and doing whatever they need to do to get food each week. I've got another here: scrap HS2, green taxes and wind turbine subsidies. Well, scrapping subsidies makes sense because subsidies are just frauds. So the wind turbines depend on rare earth metals and for the magnets, and the rare earth metals are mined in China. And when they're mined, these metals are attached to all the nasty heavy metals, mercury, tungsten, cadmium, arsenic, that kind of thing. Cobalt, so it's a dirty industry, it's a poisonous industry, and it doesn't really deserve a subsidy. And because the wind turbines might potentially produce all that we need, but they can't store what we need. And I've read somewhere that the average house or business, in order to store its daily energy, would need about £30,000 worth of batteries. So massive amounts of lead in each housing. Because lead comes up with all these other heavy metals, and it's a heavy metal itself, so there you've got a massive pollution problem. So that's a no-go. Green taxes generally just fraudulent. HS2 is just another fraud. Some say it's designed to bankrupt us. Okay. Now we have developed shale gas here. I'm not a fan of shale gas. From what I read, it poisons the water supply, and water is a more important commodity than energy. You can just about survive with installation, but without water you're dead in 2 days. And Britain has coal, and it has the ability to capture the metals from the coal with scrubbers. And carbon dioxide, I'm not a great believer in global warming. 1983-ish, my school teacher, Mrs. Whitehouse, she was my geography teacher, she said by the year 2000 the waters would have risen from global warming 150 metres. And I remember looking on a map and finding places in England that were over 150 metres above sea level. Of course, 2000 came and went, 2010 came and went, and we're here in 2014, and the beaches of Britain are still here. And some of the warmest, they tell us that the oceans have risen 8 inches. And personally, I don't believe them. I don't know how you measure 8 inches across oceans, across the geographic spans of the world, and come up with a figure of 8 inches. I think it's just a fairy story. I don't think it's 8 millimetres. I don't think it's measurable. The beaches haven't flooded, and that's that. No global warming. The last article of Rebuild Prosperity was make cuts to foreign aid that are real and rigorous. Well, the real would be 100%, and that would also be rigorous. So just say eliminate foreign aid. If someone wants to bribe, tell them no. Tell them, we live the honest life. If the country requires bribes to trade, then they can go, screw themselves. Now, the next big heading is safeguard against crime, with no cuts to frontline policing. Well, that sounds good, but we're in the age of austerity, and we've got a budget deficit that keeps growing, and the police is, it's a big component of that. And if you're going to cut the deficit, then it's not enough to have an efficiency drive. All these governments speak of efficiency drives. Efficiency drives might take 10%, they might save 10 billion if you're pushing them hard. But to save 150 billion, which is of the order of our deficit, we're going to have to eliminate complete systems. And the police is a system, and so we have to think about eliminating the entire police force, and what would be the alternative. And my feeling is the alternative is an armed, unpaid public militia. So just like Switzerland and Finland and Canada, every responsible adult, I'd guess about 40 million of them, would have an assault rifle. Assault rifles cost a few £100, maybe £1,000 with the training included. So 40 million times 1,000 is about 40 billion. But the assault rifles and the training lasts for life. So for 40 years it works out at £1 billion a year, compared to the 100 billion a year that the legal system costs. Make sentences mean what they say. Well, this is another part of the austerity, that these prisons and the prison systems are expensive. So we have to think about alternatives to the prison systems, and some of these are you might call liberal or lax, such as fining people, and others are not so liberal, hanging. Well, perhaps not much more than hanging, but I think the solution to the prison system is the same solution we need for the banksters and the oligarchs, so just put it that way. All of them together costs, 200 billion maybe between a lot of them, and there's 150 billion deficit, so if you don't agree, then just make sure you pay my share in your taxes. Fourth point here is prevent foreign criminals entering the UK. Well, I don't see a problem with that. If they start committing crimes, then they can go the way, I think we can afford to take all of those foreign criminals and make a world supply of Soylent Green. Probably quite profitable. Here we have scrap the European arrest warrant, which sends British citizens to foreign jails without evidence. just to answer questions. Well, there's an alternative to that, which is you have a video link. This is the 21st century, and if foreign police want to interview foreign subjects or British subjects or vice versa, I really don't see what the issue is with having a video link. You can have judges and lawyers on both sides taking an affidavit that the evidence was done under oath, that the video and the memory and the documentation all match up. I don't see what the problem is. And we have the last one here: remove the UK from the jurisdiction of the European Court of Human Rights. Well, I'm not so against human rights. So if you think of the Magna Carta, habeas corpus, the English Bill of Rights of 1689, which is the right to bear arms, the freedom of speech, and the European Court of Rights, it ought to defend those. And if it doesn't, then it doesn't have the right to call itself a court of human rights. It's just a court that calls itself the Court of Human Rights that doesn't support human rights. And I think we need more rights, because we've all seen how rights have been stripped from us, rights of property. We've seen people who are defending themselves go to prison. We've seen the elite banksters get away with conspiracy to commit genocide, financially crippling hundreds of millions of people around the world, and they get away with it. Where's the rights? Where's the justice? So we need more justice. We need more rights. We don't need idiot rights. The politically correct BS rights that the Guardian tells us we need, but we need the basics: freedom of speech, the right to bear arms, the right to property, habeas corpus. If you want to arrest someone, then you have to say what the charge is, and if you arrest someone under false charges, or those charges are found in error, then potentially there's a big lawsuit, and policemen right up the hierarchy can get sacked. That's what we need. I'll leave it here because I'm approaching 20 minutes, and that's about the limit of my YouTube length, YouTube video length. Thank you.